So thank you very much for everyone for coming by. I'm gonna be trying to speak slowly because usually I speak very fast, and sometimes people don't understand me because I don't explain myself or because I speak very fast. So I will try to be as slow as possible. So I'm Pep Gomez. I'm a tech entrepreneur. I'm 28 years old. I am the founder of Reby. Reby is the leading manufacturer and distributor of public sharing electric vehicles for Southern Europe. We are essentially, I would say, not only the leaders by the number of cities, but we're also one of the few, if not the only one, that is profitable. So we're very happy and very proud to say this, especially because we believe people lie in this industry, and people say they are profitable when they are not, and some other sort of things. But I will explain a little bit why do I say this. As I said, I'm a tech entrepreneur. I'm 28 years old. I started my first company when I was 18, 10 years ago. My first company essentially it's called Fever. Fever is today the leading event discovery platform in the world. Is something like you would say Eventbrite plus Timeout. So essentially what we do is we have one of actually the largest media network in the world about what to do locally. So essentially we have lots of media channels like Secret London, Secret LA, New York Secret, Barcelona Secret, and it's called the Secret Network. And all of these media talk about what to do in the city and what is cool things to do in the city. We started out being a recommendation system for you to choose what to do in a city based on what matters to you. And then we progressed and we evolved in actually the team that is managing the company evolved into something very nice, which is to organize their own events and produce their own events, just like Netflix does for content. And this has been very key for the growth of the company. The company it's worth a few $100 million and has raised over 80 million from Rakuten, Axel, Fidelity, and some other tier one funds. And then I started this company, as I said, when I was 18 or 19 years old, and I was the CEO for slightly over 5 years until 2016. And then afterwards, the team that is managing it today is the same team that essentially was running it, because I'm mostly a founder which cares about fundraising and team hiring. So it's a pretty good team, very smart people. And I really enjoyed starting that company. The company is still there and it's growing very nicely. In 2016, I leave the day-to-day and I move towards exploring what I wanted to do next. So essentially, I spent 1 year and a half thinking what was going to be the next thing that I had to do in life, and also some holidays, of course. But mostly what I was doing is thinking what to do next. I joined a lot of boards, different kind of companies, most like media companies or retail companies, traditional sectors. But one of the companies or institutions that I joined, or I collaborated with, is the Mobile World Capital Foundation, where I was chairman for venture capital. This is a foundation that organizes, well, I don't know anymore if they do it this year, but they organize Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. And essentially, I was in charge of managing the relationship with the, essentially everything related to investing through an accelerator the company had, also starting a venture builder, also having relationship with venture capitalists. And this is a foundation organizing this Mobile World Congress that is public-private. So essentially, there's a lot of collaboration with public institutions. And this is something I think, naturally, I spent more time there, not because I was making more money, but just because I really like law, and I really like everything around legal things, and I really, and especially I'm very interested in the public-private collaboration. So I like public law a lot. So at some point, essentially, I decided to spend more time on that and learn about public administration and learn about not politics. I'm not interested about politics. It's more about the stimulation intellectually about public administration and how can public administration be clean, transparent, not corrupt, and essentially collaborate with companies in a equal environment where technology wins over corruption. Let's put it this way. Okay. I was seeing many companies, large infrastructure companies, that typically they were, earning contracts because they were friends with politicians, they were paying them, they were whatever. This is public because of WikiLeaks and Panama Papers and all of this. And then EU has implemented in Europe a lot of methods and laws and transparency laws. And then, of course, if you are a newbie and you're a new company, you maybe not, you don't know about this, but if you are a little bit pushy like me, like not very comfortable guy for them, then you become someone who can get pretty much all the information about who wins tenders, why would they win the tenders, how they win the tenders, and somehow you're able to, as a company, I would say, or any company related to traditional infrastructure, if they have, generally speaking, right, if they have better technology, and this is my investment thesis, if they have better technology, they are able to win over large corporations, or they have higher chances to win over large corporations. So I was looking at infrastructure, infrastructure being what are the kind of big contracts or general contracts that, big, and I'm sorry I'm mixing my introduction with the company, but I think it's important for you to see where am I coming from. As I said, I was looking at infrastructure, and I was looking at water management, I was looking at construction, I was looking at lending in real estate, I was looking at many different things, digitalization of the real estate fleet, or this is the availability in a city. I was also looking for TMT, and at some point I said, one sector that is interesting to me is mobility, and I started to look at urban mobility from another point of view, right? So people think mobility is something very crowded, and it is, and people think, generally that the mobility is everything. So urban mobility, people associate everything is the same, like shared mobility, kick scooters, mopeds, bikes, Uber, everything the same. But my opinion is a little bit different, right? So my opinion was, or my aha moment was, I was looking at these companies, Bird and Lime, and then I saw that, they, first of all, they were not profitable, but also their strategy to win predator style, grow as you can kind of mentality was not the best, in my opinion, the best way to get money or to generate profit for your seed investors and your common holders, which is the founders. So, as a potential early stage investor of these companies, I decided not to do the deal. And then I said, oh, no, but this industry is okay. I just think that the companies in this market are not doing it very, very well. That was my thought, right? That was 2018, the beginning, I would say, because the beginning of the kick scooter companies and all of this, right? This was the summer of 2018, actually. And I was in this KinderNet where actually Michael was there as well, and I was, looking at, mobility and thinking, is it possible to do this in Europe in a way that is profitable? And, at some point I came out with this idea, which is, if micromobility, being mopeds, scooters, bikes, is something, it has a radical different thing or an important thing different to the companies like Uber or what is the name of this other company? Lyft, right? Where essentially, you are occupying public space. And then, essentially because you're occupying public space as a company, you really need to, to get authorization to occupy public space, right? This is the same like when we talk about, kiosks in Europe. There's many cities that have like, I don't know, a public restaurant in the middle of a square or a kiosk or something. And, it's not like, you're Predator style, you're Uber, you can go there and just think that you can go, It's not like your go-to-market is the same as if you are Uber. Uber, I would say it has some regulation because they have these national laws about licenses for, but generally speaking, there's a lot of leeway to hire, it's the same as food delivery, like illegal people. You can really make nasty things to grow your business and blitz scaling, as they call it, right? However, I thought that in urban shared mobility, that's radically different because you need to have authorization and you need to get authorization to occupy public space, and that public space belongs to the city halls. Then you have a client, which is not the consumer, it's the city hall, right? So then, therefore, you cannot do nasty things. Therefore, you need to do something that is compliant, it's safe, it's able to live together or cohabitate with the pedestrians. So essentially, you start to see how the way people think about urban mobility, it's not, or at least in my thesis, it's completely different to what in reality is, at least in Europe, right? Of course, Europe is not Bali, or is not these places where essentially no regulation. It's totally the opposite. There's a lot of regulation. There's tickets. There's police stopping you everywhere, and so on. So, anyway, so having these thoughts and so on, I said, wow, if I'm able to infrastructurize, right, to create an infrastructure company out of this urban mobility system, this is going to be huge, because nobody's looking at it this way. And the moment they will start to look at it this way, they will have so many hundreds millions raised and burned that it will be not, their last priority will be to become profitable, or to the first priority will be to simulate like they are profitable while trying to manage the politics in 10 people boards and these kind of things, right? So I saw a good opportunity. I went to the market. I went to talk to many VCs that I knew from Fever, and majority of them said no. I wanted to raise 2 million, 3 million, and they said, why do you want 2 million? I'm investing in this other company 50 million. You should go with them. And I said, no, thank you very much. Then all of these companies, all of the funds in Europe, they looked at this as the Uber copycat, rocket internet mentality in Europe, and then Uber will buy it, right? And then essentially what happened is, they injected hundreds of millions of dollars in these companies. They burned the money. They lost the scooters, the kick scooter, essentially the same as China, right? Bikes, all of this, and then they went to shit, okay? So now many of them are in trouble. The ones that are not in trouble are almost in trouble, and and in this situation where the VCs have to pay to play, so they go to the last layer of preferred stock because they are aware that the company probably is not worth more than the last layer of preferred stock, and that's it. So I'm not saying I was right. It's very easy to say it, right? But I'm not saying I was right. I'm just saying that it's what happened. It could have been the opposite, and me being a very a small company doing nothing, right? So, but today, I can say, very, very loud and clear, I'm very proud of the company that we've structured in 2 years. First year, we made 4 million revenue. Second year, we made 10 million revenue, which was 2020. It's profitable, over 2 million in profit in 2020. This year, we want to make 30 million in revenue. It's not like we want to make 100 million. We want to make 30 million, consistent, 6 million profit, okay? And then our way of growing is this. We are very experts in public administration and public law. We are very specialized in winning tenders, and we're very specialized in building hardware and firmware and software made by ourselves, where essentially we are able to adapt that hardware to comply with regulation. So to your point, because I don't SR, I don't know your first name, sorry, because I only see SR. Yeah, and you're mute. Yeah, you're mute. Yeah, Sasha. Okay, so Sasha, to your point, I love Africa. I think it has to be regulated. The moment it will be regulated, we are very happy to go there. And by the way, if they want to learn how to regulate, we're happy to teach them how to regulate. We don't want to, we never operate in unregulated markets. We never operate in open markets. We only operate in places where we think we can be profitable, tier 2 markets mostly. The tier 1 markets where we make sure that we have a very significant market share. And, we adapt our characteristics, and we do a lot of R&D, like pollution sensors, like limits of speed, like many intelligent kind of things that you can add, many kind of add-ons that you can put to our vehicle lines. So we are able to win, and so we're able to be better than our competitors, right? And because we're vertically integrated and we are manufacturers of the hardware, firmware, and software, for us it's really very, very easy to create a new vehicle made for a specific city. We are operating in 13 cities today. We won 13 contracts, and this is in Spain and Italy. We are the leaders in Spain and Italy. And by leaders, I mean, not only number of cities, it's also leaders for the long term, because, it's not the case now, but it's been many companies that were here and say, no, we're the leaders in Spain, we're in 25 cities, right? And that was during 2 months. And then, of course, they were kicked out and they had to leave. So I'm talking about consistency, we're consistency, 13 cities, growing. We will expand into 5 to 10 more cities this year. And we are, we have this business model, and then we have also another business model, which is B2B, where we actually, we split the CapEx cost with a third party, like another businesses and so on. That's pretty much what we do. That's the reason why. That's the reason why I started the company. If I would say, one thing that. And I would try to make it, but just for you to know me a little bit more, I never went to college. I did a master's degree in ESADE, which is a sort of master's degree, because it was a scholarship they gave to me, so I could do master's degree in ESADE, which is a business school, but I never went to college. I was a very good student. I'm a musician. I play many different instruments. I'm a composer as well. You can actually check my Instagram and hear my music if you want. And then, I am always intrigued. So the reason why I started companies is because I'm very interested in learning about new things and stimulating myself, my brain, and so on, meeting new people, of course, but it's part of my day-to-day, but also, in new industries. And I did this thing in infrastructure, same way as I did events. I see, I guess, it's a pattern to say that I focus a lot on, industries which are overlooked. So essentially, industries that everybody thinks that are shit, and I fundamentally disagree with. So essentially, events, everybody thinks is a shitty market, because you see all these ticketing platforms like Eventbrite, like whatever, right? Like all these companies, which are very, it's very interesting companies. At the end, they are commodity, they sell tickets. Eventbrite actually is a very good company because the founders are very smart and they did a lot of discovery and they're learning. But there's many other companies that they're just Ticketmaster, right? It's a company that was only doing ticketing, and then payments is something getting commoditized and payment fees are getting lower. So I don't really see I don't really see why Stripe wouldn't launch their own ticketing system, right, for events. And then so my point is, I guess. I always focus myself on industries that I believe everybody think, let's say, time to market industries that I think are very interesting, but just in that time to market didn't work. And then VCs, I guess, because tech is growing and there's a lot of different industries, VCs like to simplify a lot and like to, let's say, the industry of investing in venture capital like to create these recipes where they say, oh, this happened this, or this is whatever, this is that, this is whatever, but they don't really go into details much. I think the best investors I've seen I've met in my life, and many of them, majority, they never invested in me, is people who really go to the detail and they really see, what is what you're trying to do, right? And I guess, to my previous point, I always focus in these industries. Many people failed and, go to these VCs or to the market, and the market says, journalists, I was just having a coffee with an investment banker. And then right behind me, there was a guy who was a fund that actually invested in Tier, which is this very large company in Germany where SoftBank led a 200 million round very recently. And he asked me, oh, Pep, nice to see you. Are you still in scooters? And I was like, yes. Shitty market. I'm very, this is so bad. Huh? I hope you're well with this Tier thing and so on. I wish you best of luck. And he was like, you're in scooters and everything. So for me, this kind of low profile, kind of mentality where, you know, many people fail and that's why VCs are not looking at it. I really like it, because I see that, you know, there's many companies that raise the money from the VCs lose the money, but the companies learn a lot. There's many people there who learned a lot. There's many learnings, many, you know, evangelism that people do. They evangelize a lot because they go to city halls. In my case, right, they will go to city halls. They show what not to do. You know, people learn, and then it's, for me, it's like getting leverage. It's like, you know, for me, it's like, you know, I'm essentially, I have this kind of playground to try out new things, which is my competitors' money, and they just, you know, waste the money doing many different things. And the few things that work, which typically when you have to burn money like crazy because the market is crazy and you really want to raise more, so your investors get a unrealized markup in their own calculation for the VC, so they can raise for more money and more funds and more LPs and all this spin wheel. Then, you know, it's very cool because they have to burn the money somehow. So they start to burn the money in stupid shit. And from time to time, you know, one of the 20 stupid sheets work, and that thing that worked, we copy it. So it's very cool. And then, you know, we are very efficient. We raised below $10 million in the whole company. Actually, we never disclose this, but, you know, it's okay. The one that sees this, then they will see it. But and then we, you know, we raised a lot of debt on top of that, and 100% of our capex operations are financed with debt. So yeah, so it's you know, it's more like a and that's you know, that's pretty much the company today. I like that this business because I think and I'm seeing that, and I thought that, you know, the you know many people were gonna pour money at it, they will fail, and then I would be able to create a company and then to use all of this to grow. And I think I did the same with Fever, right? With my previous company, we had this. I remember I have had these companies like Y-Plan, another competitor of us. They raised 60 million, then they shut down. They sold for 2 million or something like this. You know, like, and you know, and they. It's not like they were not smart. It's just that, you know, all this pressure people put on top of themselves by thinking that, you know, raising money and deploying money it's easy, right? I mean, I will say this to investors, right? When I go to raise money, I say, no, I only need 2 million more, and they say, but why 2 million and not 10 million? And I say, no, because I will get 10 million more in debt. So why, you know, no, but take 10 million in equity. I say, no, because then I have to pay you back, you know, and you will call me, and then you will, you know, you will start to call me and everything. So my kind of mentality, it's being very extremely efficient. I had to learn in my previous company that you have to do lots of things with very small money, because it was I was first time founder, Spanish, like you know, it's you know, it's like now people talk about equality, everything, you know. I mean, first time I went to Silicon Valley, one of my few meetings. I mean, I was living there for 2 years before, but then, you know, when I started to create this company, I was at the VCs. They, oh, you're Spanish? Yeah, I go a lot to Mexico. You know, I go all this shit. Yeah, there's a lot. My gardener is a Mexican. They were saying this, like, I promise to you. My gardener is your brother, like this. So they don't know where Spain is. They were racist. Now things are changing, and they changed a lot. Like, you know, in 10 years, things have changed a lot. But you have to imagine, right? When I started the company, events space, okay, shitty space. The guy is 19. Me, I was 19 years old, no experience. So we had to, you know, squeeze every $50,000 check that we were raising, right? Of course, now it's easier, but then we have other troubles. But typically speaking, you know, apples to apples, we are 30 to 40 times more efficient than our competitors, which is not like 2 times, it's like 30, 40 times more efficient than our competitors. We don't do PR. So we don't do any PR outside of the markets we operate. We don't do any international PR. I don't even think, you know, many of these, I mean, some of them know us, but we try not to be known. So we try that, you know, no competitor of us know about us. We don't announce anything. We don't announce rounds. We don't brag, you know. So we only use PR and certain things for the one things that we care about, which when we win a tender in that city, we publish it. So we can send it to other politicians and do lobby. But generally speaking, we don't do that. And that's, yeah. And I will finalize here because I think you interrupt me because of questions and so on, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks a lot. Thanks very much
Very
for
much.
sharing, like, from this big portfolio of expertise that you have. So maybe we can take a little bit and time to answer questions from the audience so they can participate or benefit from all the
Yes,
cool
of
things that
course.
you've done. So I think one of the questions Michael had is, what actually was your vision when you started Fever? And then maybe you can share also how it changed over the years and how you're
For
gonna
Fever
see
or for
it
Reby,
next.
Michael? So Reby is my new company, Fever is my previous company.
So I guess
Michael?
I was curious in terms of like what was your vision when you started Fever, and then
Okay.
like how you develop that vision, and with your current company, like what is the vision the next 3 to 5 years? And then I guess going back to what you mentioned about being a first-time entrepreneur and then a serial entrepreneur, like how is that learning and insight sort of helped you develop personally?
Yeah, so Fever essentially, was born in San Francisco. I was, I had my first phone. There were like maybe 70 apps in the market. It was 2011, I think. And then, I discovered the apps. Uber was still by SMS. So you would send an SMS and they would send you a driver. And then I said, I went, long story short, I managed to create with my roommate this map where we were scrapping all these check-ins from Facebook Places and Foursquare check-ins and so on. And then the most recent ones would appear more red. The less recent ones would change color to less red. And then we would create this heat map where essentially we would know where people are checking in. And then based on this map, we would essentially crash into parties from other people. So we would discover people were checking it at some random house, that there was happening this BC that was organizing a event for a portfolio company, or this a founder of Facebook with the World Economic Forum organizing something, and then we would just go there and crash. And we didn't know anybody, but we used it to do things. And then with my friends, many times what we were doing is after work on Friday, we would go to my place, we would check, what's going on right now, and then we would just go there, right? And we had this map of things going on in the city, which, as you can imagine, San Francisco is not a very funny city, so mostly were houses. But also the nice thing is, because people are very techy, they were checking in publicly. I'm in this house, I'm in that house. So it was very interesting to do this. And that evolved to create a software, a program that was, okay, I have some time, I want to do something, what can I do? And then I was checking, people were checking this app. We started out in a very organic, user-created events, like very self-sustained consumer product. Maybe today it would have worked, because if you see Clubhouse, many things have changed in 10 years. So many today, it's very collaborative, but even Clubhouse did a lot of curation, I think, at the beginning. So we started out with that mentality, right? People were able to create their own events, but then we were doing curation. Very quickly we realized, I would say, with the evolving of the product, with improving the product, we realized that quality, and we saw Airbnb. Airbnb was just starting to grow a little bit, and then we were seeing that they were very focused on comparing to, if you compare Craigslist to Airbnb, essentially people were choosing Airbnb because of the payment and safety, but also pictures were good pictures, good description, right? So we kind of copied the same thing and said we really wanted to create good quality content for our app, so people were gonna enter and not see very bad events, right? Like meetup.com, which has events, but many of them are shit. So essentially, we did this, we started to curate it, and then that evolved until a process where 90% or pretty much everything, there's a vetting process and it's curated. So and then of course now it's more than curated, which is the company produced their own events. The vision for the next 3 to 5 years, I mean, I'm the founder, I'm no longer in the day-to-day of the company, but I would say it's the same, to be the go-to place for offline experiences. And I think the company is doing a pretty good job at that. And for Reby, I would say, my goal for the next 3 to 5 years is to consolidate the position in infrastructure mobility leader in Europe. So yeah, totally different.
And what kind of advice has helped you in this journey? Like things that, you wish you knew when you started your first company, or things that, has helped you as an entrepreneur and investor?
Yeah, I think when I was 19, 20, 21, when I was in this company, I cared a lot about what people were thinking about me. I cared a lot when a VC was saying no. I was like, why is this guy saying no? And then I was replying and challenging, because many, of course, right? When investors majority, they say no, and of course when you raise money, majority say no. And then I was pushing back because they were saying bullshit arguments, because sometimes they just don't want to do it because I'm young, or because back in the day, they didn't want to do it, or these kind of things. And then I was pushing back, and at some point, I learned to, that to not care, because I was very emotional. As a musician, so it was very emotional, and was like, wow, why they say no if this company is fucking great? Why? I mean, this is so stupid. Why are they saying no, right? And then I when I was sending these emails like, in 10 years you will see whatever, in 3 years it's so bad that you will miss this opportunity because this company in 3 years will be 200 million worth, right? And this kind of things, which then it happened, right? But then it could have not happened. So and then but I learned a lot of, I had to meet. So I would say, as things that I learned is, to care less about that. There's lots of money, LPs, everything in the world. So for me now, it's more about, the health of the company, how to do things correctly and good as a company. And I don't really care when an investor says no. I don't really give a shit. Like, they say no, I find another one who says yes. I really, as a fundraising strategy, I enjoy fundraising process. I enjoy it a lot, but I also say that, I don't care that much about that, because I know how the company is. Actually, David Grebler just connected here, and David, I was, these two co-founders I have in the company, I met him at his place, actually, at his house in that summer, where Michael Hurley was also there in a keynote. So the person I was telling you before, Anonymous, I was Anonymous, and we met him at his place, and I met my two co-founders there, actually.
Amazing. And I guess with regards to Reby, when you met your co-founders, how did you know that these were two people that you could build this amazing company with, and sort of develop the idea and sort of progress?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I already had the idea of building a mobility infrastructure company. I already had the idea of spending time with public administration, and how to draft tenders and long-term concessions. And I already had this idea on kind of learning about telecom and some other industries where essentially there were contracts happening, and then how to try to move that into mobility. And I knew that I knew that I needed a very strong R&D, very strong technology. And to be honest with you, this group of people that there's lots of communities, but I would say it was just randomly, right? I was by chance, coincidence, I was talking to these two people, which, by the way, they were not there because of this, they were there because of another reason. But then I was talking to them, and I was saying like, what do you do? And they were saying like, we manufacture bikes. And I said, interesting, And then I said, I'm building this infrastructure mobility company. And they said, what is his name? What is the name of the company? And I said, it doesn't have a name yet, but I'm starting this mobility company. And then maybe you guys can be the ones who help me design public sharing electric vehicles, because nobody else is doing this outside of bikes, right? Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And then, beyond that, how have you managed to progress it to where it is today?
Yeah, so we invested our own money at the beginning. I spent some months in China, and then we launched it with very little money, super efficient. We're super efficient in capital. And then from that, from that position, we've been actually, we really been raising money as we needed the money. It was a very different way to grow a company, I would say. We're not the kind of, we're not doing like seed round, A round, B round, C round. We're more in the, we raise money if we need it, as we need it, and only if we cannot raise debt. If we are able to raise debt, then we don't take equity. We're trying to minimize dilution and maximize, profits and returns. And we also think that our investors like that a lot, because we think that, when you tell an investor that you're entering into venture capital, but leveraging yourself as if it were real estate, then it becomes very interesting, because then it means that you're more likely to get your money back, and you're much more likely. You increase significantly the chances to get a very good return in a venture capital company. It becomes less like a binary company, yes or no, because it's not like a pure consumer. This is why people also like B2B and SaaS, because they have the feeling, which by the way is real. They know that many companies are just not going away, they're not running away. Consumers are less predictable, right? So consumers are more, sometimes they like video, sometimes they like TikTok, sometimes they like Clubhouse, right? But sometimes you launch a product and there's no product market fit, right? And to be honest with you, consumer wise, I haven't seen many good companies in the past 5 years, I would say, aside of Instagram, Facebook, and that's Spotify maybe. As a consumer, pure consumer, not like utility companies, or like companies that are just providing a service, but they are just like more technology, but in reality it's like a traditional business. Like Affirm is a company I love, which is in the lending space, fintech. But and I was for a while I was a big, I would say, for me, an investor was a big investment for me, investing in and I love the company. But they are lending money, right? It's a business that it's been there for like 20, 30, 50, 200, 300 years, right?
And what was your happiest moment with building Fever and building Reby?
My happiest moment in Fever, I would say, was the moment I convinced a good institutional to join the company. It was 14W and Axel Partners and Fidelity. And I would say this was the best because I suffered so much. I as I said, I was very young and so on, and I really suffered because it was very difficult to convince tier one investors to join the company, because as I said, right, based in Spain, nobody was investing in Madrid or anything, and then we really didn't want to take money from tier 3 or tier 4 VCs. So we were very focused on tier 1, and it took us like 9 months or 8 months or 10 months to raise the round. I mean, it was not easy at all. And then in Reby, probably my happiest moment so far has been the moment I understood that I could convert the venture business, that the theory of being able to create a product, physical product, being able to convince an insurance company to insure that product, especially against vandalism and all these things that people care about, kick scooters and mopeds and so on, and then being able to get a bank to back it up and to lend money against that asset. I think that to kind of validate that assumption was very important to me, because it made the difference between being able to make money and not make money as a founder. If you're able to raise debt at 2% interest ratio, understanding that this business will give you like 10, I mean, now they will give you much more, but when this gets back to normal, because there's competition, because contracts regulate pricing and so on, this will come back to a 8, 10, 12% yield per city infrastructure. So if you're not able to raise money at 2%, 3%, 4%, but rather venture debt 10%, 12%, they're getting all the profit and you're getting zero, and then your company, you as a founder, you're not going to get your money, right? So that was my kind of thinking around it, and that was my happiest moment, I would say, because I understood that I was going to be able to make money out of this business instead of just creating a startup, one more startup. I think there's two mentalities when building a technology company. One way of thinking is, I will make this business, will be successful, I will sell it to someone. And I think that's good if you're classified, I don't know, but generally speaking, as a founder, I don't like these businesses, because it's like a hot potato, and anytime it can explode, and then you go to shit, and then you lose all your time and your invested time and your reputation and everything. So to me, this was, I would say, my happiest moment, to validate that this can be a blended private equity venture capital, like a venture capital business, but with a very big component of reality, if this makes sense.
Amazing. Continue from you. You mentioned that you care about building a good company. What's a good company? In which way does it differ from a conventional current company out there?
Yeah, a good company to me is good culture, good relationship with investors, good, good people, like good people who you really enjoy working with, ethics, not having under the, I don't know, not hiring, like, not building a food delivery business based on the assumption that you can pay $3 an hour a delivery guy, right? So I would say, building this kind of tricky businesses and so on, it's not something I enjoy, and I would feel very bad, and also very insecure, right? Because at some point they change the rules and they change the laws, and then you're fucked, right? So I'm sorry for these words I use. I'm very sorry. But I mean that, at some point, this is what it is. This is the reality, with these businesses. And yes, it's possible that somebody acquires you and then you become so large that, you can pay more to the other people. But essentially, you're building a business by using other people, right? Who, by the way, are not benefiting. So from the interesting connected to your unit thing, by the way. Michael.
A question from Alessandro. Have you ever considered stakeholders ownership, from fundraising to exiting to your community, like distributing ownership?
Have you ever considered stakeholders ownership, from fundraising to exiting to your user community? I was discussing this with Michael actually a few weeks ago in Bali. But we're looking up. If you have any suggestion, we would be super interested in exploring this, especially because it's a good way to grow, because you get local prescriptors who can help you locally in their tier C2, tier 3 cities or connections and so on. You said VC investors in the future need to do differently than today so they can thrive sustainably. I think VCs in general are improving a lot, and because right now there's going to be a lot of VCs. There's a lot of more and more VCs. And I think this is very good for the market because it makes them be better. People can choose, right? So the moment people really can choose, it becomes more interesting, because then you need to be attractive. You need to be sexy for the entrepreneur as a VC firm.
Amazing. And going back to what you said earlier, like in those 10 months when you were fundraising for Fever, what kept you going? Like what sort of made you decide, like, we're going to do this, rather than 10 months in, you're like, give up, or like, I've had enough?
I had a lot of support. To be honest with you, I had a lot of support internally. I had very good team, and my team, many times they were very like, no, we will do this, no worries, we'll try, whatever. To be honest with you, we were fundraising, but we were just not fundraising from tier 1 VCs. So for me, it was like this kind of thing of like, so what kept me going is I really believe in the business. So it's not, the problem is not the business, right? The problem is how do you, it's all about fundraising, right? How do you sell yourself? It's about sales process, right? So I think, I would say, I'm good fundraising, but I'm very honest when talking. And I think this is not the best fundraisers. The best fundraisers are the ones that are super salesy, but it's just that, the businesses I believe are, I'm trying to, when I raise money for investor, I'm trying to, share, the way he would feel. And I'm very young, so I'm trying to build something that, I can do another business in 5 years or 7 years with that person. If you see my current company, I have one of the largest investors I had in my previous company as well. So, I really care about this long-term relationships. Yeah.
Amazing. Another question for you. Would you share a little bit about your music projects and which way they complement your life as an entrepreneur and change maker?
My music for me is to me, music is like my escape way to escape. I think there's many people who people who run, people who play video games, whatever, right? So to me, music to me is like, I really, I would be a musician full time, but I just don't, I just think there's, I don't like the life of a musician. It's all the musicians I know are very fucked up personal life wise. So I enjoy a lot having friends. It is like the people who has a boat, right? You don't want to have a boat. You want to have a friend who has a boat. You don't want to own a plane. You want to have a friend who has a plane, right? Because here's the same, right? You don't want to be a musician. You want to compose music from time to time. Maybe sell some of your songs to some musicians, and of course, being friends with many musicians so you can enjoy the show life. But then at the end of the day, I think when you are, you want to be, you want to do something that lasts for the long time, but also make it good for the world. I think doing art and doing music, it's very important. And I think anyone, in parallel to your day-to-day life, I think anyone should try to find their explore way to write things or contribute to the culture of their own culture, of the world in general, right? So I love art. I'm more and more interested about art. One of our investors is Plensa, which is a very and I really like art a lot. And I'm in my previous company as well, right? We had this Alejandro Sanz and many other musicians as investors because at some point when the company became cool, or I said, I really want to meet these musicians and artists and see how they think and how they build life around them, and how they and many of them are, I would say majority, if not all of them, are very, very smart people, especially the most successful ones are super smart people, very hardworking. And it's just that for me, professionally speaking, I'm not in that need, I would say. However, I would say, when I'm not playing, like, I travel a lot. Unfortunately, sometimes I bring my guitar. You saw this, Michael, I think, because I bring my guitar or a piano or many things here and there. But I really, when I'm a place that you can call home, which is when I'm in a place that I'm more stable, in an apartment where I stay sometimes or whatever, I always have a piano and I try to play it a couple of hours or a day or so. Mm-hmm. And by the way, and to me, a couple of hours looks like you're training in the gym. You see, I'm not training in the gym, but a couple of hours to me is more like I don't really see the time go by, right? I just sing, play music, compose music. I really like it.
And you've met some of like the top entrepreneurs and investors in the world. Like, what are like defining traits or characteristics like amongst these people that share and have them build like successful things or projects?
Yeah, I think there are two things here. No, the most successful entrepreneur. I've met, I would say, let's classify them in, if this is okay. Let's classify them in two groups. Okay, I've met the professional best investors and people who are very active, let's say, but in the spin wheel of professionals of private equity, right? So essentially managers of private equity, so managers of funds, managers, and all of these people sometimes were entrepreneurs before. What I've seen in some of the best ones on this is that they tend to be very analytic and very humble, and I like this a lot. I mean, there's some exceptions, but even if you see Chamath, which he makes all these things in Twitter and so on, I think he's very analytical and very, very, even very humble, as a person. I think I mean, he may have changed there since I haven't seen him for a long time, but I think that the best ones are very like this, and I would say on the other side, the high net worth individuals I've met, which many times are successful entrepreneurs who sold their companies, and they're just sometimes investing as LPs in funds, of course, but they're diversified. But when I see these people, which I admire a lot, you really, to me, this is the real successful ones, right? Because if you really, if you are, I mean, success is different for anyone. I mean, for everyone. And then what success means for you can be different to what success means for me. But of course, if someone, I'm thinking to the same person that I'm thinking about the same person that you're thinking. I think, Michael, for someone who's been very successful in the sector of technology or any of TMT or any other sector, to be able to combine personal life and professional life and spend time with your family, with your kids, with your hobbies, being able to spend time with your friends. I think this is very important because as entrepreneurs are very pushed, we sometimes we don't see this. But I think that's what real success is. So what I consider the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, and I'm not talking about net worth, I'm talking about success, is these people, right? Who's they say, okay, money is okay, it's important. Of course, they like money. All people say no, because when you don't, all the people I know, at least the people I know that made a lot of money, of course, they don't like to lose money, and they are, I have more money today, of course, that I had 5 years and 10 years ago, and I'm same stingy, and I'm very same cheap, and I negotiate everything, and this is my personality, and I really like the way I am, and it's not like that's not gonna change for me. I think the people that are very successful, the ones that remain authentic, and understand that it's not, money is not everything in life, right? So there's many other things that are important in life.
Amazing. And what would you say your personal vision is for the next like 10, 15, 20 years, like beyond?
Yeah, I for now I'm in my 20s. I'm 28 right now. So for now I'm just, of course, generating building companies, which to me, my opinion is that building companies, because I'm young and I can spend a lot of time doing this now, building companies is the best way for me to increase exponentially my net worth. And I've seen this is the way, the fastest way, and the most challenging, and the most intellectual way, or the most intellectually challenging for me to do this. And I'm enjoying it so much. And the thing I enjoy the most is I'm able to meet these super smart people, and be surrounded by people who normally, I'm from a small town in Spain called Castellón. I'm people who I would dream when I was a child to meet, but maybe they were not spending time with me because who's this guy, right? Like no undergrad, no whatever. No. So I think, even if I would make zero money with my company, it's only the time that the things that I learned and the people I've met, it's this is the most important thing to me.
Amazing. And if someone was like, if someone was in a small town, say in Spain or in Asia or in South America, and they were listening to this, like what kind of learnings or experience can you share which has sort of helped you in your personal journey?
Yeah, to me, one thing that I would say, I had no money, so I was essentially making my small city special, and then organizing a lot of conferences and things that were happening in my city, so I didn't have to travel. So people were coming to visit my city, and then I would meet entrepreneurs and investors because I would organize events. I would find the sponsors, but to do everything in my city. So I would say, think creatively. How can you do things to attract the attention of people who doesn't have time? This is the way I did it, right? The way I did it was I was organizing a lot of conferences and tech events with the hope that I would meet after the conference or something, because I was the organizer, some of the speakers, and then I would learn from them.
Amazing.
Totally non-profit, totally zero profit, but of course you make big network doing these kind of things.
And I guess one of the key focuses of Unit is digital tokens and decentralized apps. How do you feel about this industry of blockchain and decentralization and Bitcoin?
Yeah, I hold some crypto. I like the idea. I'm very close friends to people who are very invested in crypto, and since many years ago, I invested my first time in 2015, I think, in crypto. I don't know, right? I don't know. I mean, it's I think it's a new way to store value. I think the world is fucked up, generally speaking. So I think that's why we're creating this kind of decentralized, international, no government backed kind of independent coin. On the flip side, it's also being used. You say no, a minimum, because with all this market cap that will be now and all these people investing, it will be a small portion. But I think it's like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, right? People were, pouring cash money coming from drugs and, terrorism and whatever, and they were flowing the money because there was no control into normal banks. Now with KYC, AML procedures with the new banks, it's difficult to move that money. So then they just store it in other ways. When Bitcoin started, I was thinking this theory to say this will never get clean because it's already dirty since the beginning. But now I look at it like more like a amnesty that people will give, because potentially of course we don't know, right? But potentially the majority of the you know, of the market cap, of the size of the, you know, of Bitcoin, as an example, will be clean money and verified. And, you know, and I'm aware that, you know, companies like Ripple started to be, since the beginning, very well controlled, but then at some point they started to do things to mix this. And then I know that some banks went away because they were scared, but now you see banks are reinvesting again. So mixed feelings, I don't know.
Amazing. And alongside like the amazing business opportunity of mobility, like why do you care so much about it personally? Like why do you believe it's such an important problem? And
in what thing? Sorry.
In mobility, like why is mobility?
Oh, why do I do this? I mean, I you know, my dad is a you know, is a very important person in my life. And then you know, my dad was originally in the industrial sector. In the last crisis, he lost like 80% of his net worth. I learned a lot by looking at, you know, and this is not like another GME Reddit story, yeah, but just for you to see, you know, like I saw this situation, and then, you know, I learned a lot about what he shouldn't do and should do, and I got obsessed a lot about reading why these things happen and so on, and, you know, leverage. And so you know, my dad is a person who, since he's a kid, he never really cared about money also, and he likes, you know, mountains. He's very, you know, into nature. He was the foundation of one of these scout groups, and, you know, it's very it's a very I would say both my parents are very you know, very open-minded, very structured, but very they really care about, I mean, and since I was a child, and this is why music and everything, they really cared about things to me that, being from a small town, if I would see my peers and people like me, I wouldn't see it in them. Since I was a kid, I was going to museums with them, I was traveling with them, they were bringing me to, you know, musicals, they were, you know, and, you know, mountains, and so, you know, one of the things is essentially, you know, contamination, right? And I just see that the cities are dirty, and then, you know, I just think that, you know, it's you know, it will be cleaned one way or another. So if I can contribute to clean that, that's probably a little bit more purpose than what I was doing before, which is more about enjoying yourself with events. But that's, I would say, if I look at it from my interior point of view, I would say this is probably one of the reasons why.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Pep, for your time. Like, super grateful.
Thank you.
Learned a whole bunch, and yeah, looking forward to it.
It was great meeting you. Thank you very much.
Cheers.